Under its light, secrets rise, silence waits, and justice never arrives early. This is a moonlight folktale of silent vengeance. In the village of Quemara, where the baobab trees whispered secrets older than memory, there lived a woman named Amoka. Her voice was once the pride of the village, rich as honey wine, sharp as a blacksmith's blade. When she spoke at the council fire, even the elders leaned forward. When she sang at harvest festivals, children stopped their games to listen. But that was before the night the moon grew dark. 3 men stole her voice. Not with knives or poison, but with something crueler, betrayal wrapped in power. Chief Obina, who sat on the village throne. Merchant Oli, whose gold bought silence. And Elder Chidi, whose prayers were supposed to protect the innocent. They accused her of witchcraft when she refused Obina's advances. They silenced her testimony with threats when she witnessed Oli's theft from widows. They twisted her words until the village turned against her. And when she opened her mouth to defend herself one final time, no sound emerged. Her voice had fled, terrified into the depths of her chest where even she could not reach it. The village elders declared it divine judgment. Amoka was cast to the edges of Quemara, to a mud hut beneath the oldest Iroko tree, where the forest began its slow claim on human spaces. On the first voiceless night, Amoka sat outside her hut and wept. Her tears fell onto the red earth, and something impossible happened. They began to glow, silver as moonbeams. She looked up. The moon hung full and luminous above the Iroko tree, closer than she'd ever seen it. "Your tears are wasted on the ground," a voice said, though no one was there. It seemed to come from the moonlight itself, ancient and patient. "Give them to me. Let me keep your pain where they cannot bury it." Amoka didn't understand, but she was beyond caring. She tilted her clay bowl to the sky, let her tears collect, and when the bowl was full, she poured it at the base of the Iroko tree. The liquid soaked into the roots, and the tree's bark shimmered briefly with silver veins. From that night forward, Amoka made a ritual of her silence. Every evening, as the moon rose, she would sit beneath the Iroko tree with a journal, pages stitched from bark paper, ink made from charcoal and crushed indigo. She wrote names, dates, details of cruelties both large and small. She wrote the truth that her voice could no longer carry. And she wept. Always, she wept. The moon drank every tear. Years passed. The village thrived while Amoka became a ghost story, the voiceless woman beneath the Iroko tree. Mothers warned their daughters, "Speak lies and you'll end up like her." The irony was not lost on Amoka. But the moon was patient. And the moon remembered everything. Chief Obina was the first to crack. It began with sleeplessness, dreams where the moon spoke his sins in Amoka's stolen voice. Then came the letters, slipped under his door by unseen hands, each one detailing a crime, the land he'd seized, the bride price he'd extorted, the boy he'd beaten half to death for sport. The letters bore no signature, only a silver smudge that glowed faintly under moonlight. Paranoia consumed him. He accused his wives, his guards, his own children. He hired a diviner who found nothing. And then, during a village gathering, beneath the full moon, Obina stood and confessed everything. The words poured out of him like poison from a wound, unstoppable, shameful, true. He wept and tore his robes and begged forgiveness from people whose names he'd forgotten. The village was stunned. Obina was stripped of his title and exiled. Merchant Oli noticed the chief's downfall but convinced himself it was unrelated to him. He was careful, after all. Clever. His thefts were disguised as business, his bribes as charity. But the moon had witnessed those too. Ali began seeing Amoka everywhere, in market crowds, in the shadows of his warehouse, standing at the foot of his bed. Always silent. Always watching. He hired guards, then priests, then finally a witch doctor from a distant land. None could rid him of the apparition. Then the ledgers appeared. His true account books, the ones he'd buried, began showing up in public places, at the marketplace, the chief's compound, even the shrine. All his falsified dealings, his stolen goods, his debts unpaid to the poor, laid bare for everyone to see. They were written in silver ink that glowed under moonlight. Ali's reputation crumbled. Debtors came for his wealth. Partners abandoned him. And one night, driven to the edge of sanity, he ran screaming into the village square, confessing his thievery to anyone who would listen. He begged to be punished, to be released from the haunting. He was imprisoned. His fortune was redistributed to those he'd wronged. Elder Chidi was the last. The most protected. The most revered. His hypocrisy was wrapped in prayer cloths and blessed oils. But the moon sees through all veils. Chidi's punishment was the cruelest, not madness, but clarity. He began remembering. Every lie he'd blessed. Every victim he'd gaslit. Every time he'd used the gods' names to serve powerful men instead of truth. The memories were vivid, unbearable, relentless. His sermons became confessions. He would begin with prayers and end weeping on the shrine floor, admitting to manipulations, cover-ups, abuses. The village tried to stop him, to pull him away, but he couldn't be silenced. Finally, on the night of the new moon, Chidi walked to Amoka's hut. She was sitting beneath the iroko tree, writing in her journal by lamplight. He fell to his knees before her. "I know you cannot speak," he whispered, "but the moon has spoken for you. Forgive me. Curse me. Do whatever justice demands." Amoka looked at him. She set down her pen. And she did nothing. She simply returned to her writing. Chidi understood. Her silence was the sentence. He left Kwemara the next morning and was never seen again. The three men were gone, but the story remained. The village elders came to Amoka and asked her to return. They offered her a place of honor, compensation, apologies stacked like firewood. She shook her head. She had learned something in her years of silence. Her voice had been stolen, yes, but what she'd built in its absence was more powerful than any speech. The moon had become her tongue. Patience had become her blade. Truth, recorded and remembered, had become her vengeance. Amoka stayed beneath the iroko tree. And every night, the village's children would gather at a respectful distance to watch her write. Mothers no longer used her as a cautionary tale. Instead, they said, "If you are wronged and no one listens, remember Amoka. Remember that silence can be louder than screaming. Remember that the moon keeps accounts." On Amoka's final night, many years later, the moon descended. Not in vision or dream, but in presence, bright and immense, filling the space beneath the iroko tree with silver light. "You never asked for your voice back," the moon said. Amoka smiled, her face creased with age and peace. She picked up her pen and wrote her final words in the journal. "I found a better one." The moon smiled too, if moons can smile. And when Amoka closed her eyes for the last time, her tears, all of them, everyone she'd ever given, transformed into stars. They scattered across the night sky, a constellation in the shape of a woman writing. The people of Kwemara still look up and see her there. They call those stars Amoka's testimony. And they remember, the moon listens. The moon remembers. And silence, when wielded with patience, is the sharpest revenge of all. The moon did not punish them. Their choices did.